Alright, I am going to go through an assignment, the assignment where we make the ERD for Vincent's final, because I think that you need still more feedback on that. This is the actual assignment. You can follow this video and complete the assignment. So, first thing I'm going to do is look at the requirements in Vincent's vinyl, right? So I'm looking at the scope. A couple of things. The database is meant to manage and store all the store's business as it relates to purchasing, storing, and selling vinyl records. So we need to know about vinyl records. So it should manage all the purchases of the albums. And including who he bought them from, when he bought them, and how much he paid for it. It should contain an inventory of all the albums in the store. The database should also handle all point-of-sale information. In addition, customers can request items that are not in at the moment. The database should keep a list of such requirements and contact information for the customers. Vince would also like to keep a list of customers who are willing to give their name and email so that he can notify them of significant purchases. He has 2 or 3 part-time employees. They are allowed to sell but must defer any purchase until Vince is in. The database should track which employee is at the counter for each sale, but it's not a human resources database. It will not contain information about their hours, salaries, etc. I also have a few other simplifications here. We're going to say that all albums are used and that there are no new ones, no peripherals and like turntables. This makes it a lot simpler. It keeps it from being too complex. Not real life, but it's easy. We're going to have Vincent only buy from individuals. It just makes it easier too. It's a simplification, but at this point I think that's fine. Again, no HR information for employees. We're not tracking things like overhead, rent, etc. And we aren't going to track individual songs on albums. So those are things we're not going to do. Alright, so this is Workbench, and I'm going to open the server here. It wants my password. Okay. And the way we do this is we need to go to File, New Model. Alright, so we have this. You've seen this before. I'm going to double click this and it gives me the properties down here. I'm going to say Vincent Vinyl. You can name this whatever you want. I'm going to add a diagram. Okay. So I am going to, can I close this side? Can I expand this over that? No. Don't really need this stuff, but alright. I'm going to show you some of the stuff that we're going to add and then I'll expand this. So we're going to add some tables. We know we need to have album. I'm not going to do the fields right yet. I'll just put these on here. Album. We know we're going to need like customer. Or, well, let's start with customer. We know that we will need, album is different, I think, than inventory, so let's add inventory. I'm just getting stuff that it says we need in the scope, right? So I'm just going over here. I'm going to say store purchases. These are the ones that Vince purchases for the store. And then I'm going to do sale. And sale detail. Remember, we generally have to have a sale and sale detail. I know this is small. I'll make it bigger in a moment. All right. And we need request. because customers can request things. Again, I'm just going through here and picking up things that are in the list, that are in the scope. These are things that we're going to need. Is there anything that I have left out? Employee. We should probably have an employee table. All right, so these are the big things that we need. Now, a couple of things about when we get into what fields we need. If you look at the sample data, it has a list of things that we are actually going to enter, right, into the database. This is an album. Abbey Road is the title, so we need the title. Apple is the studio. It was done in 1968. It has a condition. It has a purchase price, who it was purchased from, the email of the person it was purchased from, the date that it was, and it has a genre. So actually we should probably add, with the albums, genre, and we should add probably artist. I'll just put it in here somewhere. Okay. That could go away. All right, so those are going to be our entities. We might add or change them a little bit as we go through. We can, as I said, look at this for the fields. I'm going to maximize, and I'm going to try to zoom this a little bit. Okay. So let's start with the album. I'm just going to pull it out here. Double click it so that I have the right one down here. We're going to do the column names. So it gives you by default ID album. I'm going to let that stand. I'm going to make it the primary key, which means that it's not null. And I'm going to make it auto increment, which means that it will automatically just add numbers as you go through. So this is our primary key. I'm going to title, and it will be not null, and it will varchar. Varchar means variable character, and it is perfectly fine here. Although I'm going to make it 255 characters so that it can handle most anything. All right. Then we want like the, I'm going to assume that it just has one studio. So we'll make that varchar, and 45 characters is probably enough. We want the year of the album, and I'm going to do that as an integer. An integer is a number with no decimal parts. You see there are lots of data types, but there's actually only a few that we will generally use. I'll let that be nullable. Okay, so let's look real quickly. I want to see what else. Okay, I'm not going to put the condition here, and I'm not going to put the, we could do the genre and the artist real quickly. And this is just like the book, like the normalization thing that you did. So we have an artist. I'm actually only going to add an ID, which will make a primary key, auto increment, and an artist name. I don't really care about anything else about the artist. Okay, so that's that. Between album and artist is a many-to-many relationship, because one album can have many artists, and one artist can have many albums. Workbench has this neat thing. Notice it has a many-to-many symbol here. If I click here and click here, it actually will create the linking table. Now, if you don't like the name here, because what it does is it says artist ID, artist int, you could just do ID artist. You can edit the fields if you like. It doesn't matter. If you want to leave the other names, you can. But it creates the many-to-many relation. So one album can have many artists, one artist can have many albums. The same is true of genre. So let's bring genre over wherever it was. I know I did a genre table. Where is it? Did I delete it somehow? Oh, it's still table 1. Let's change it to genre. And genre, again, just like artist, I'm only interested in the genre name. Not artist name, genre name. And I'll make it not null. And I'll put it over here. And again, this is a many-to-many. So we can use the many-to-many here and create our linking table. And then if we want to change our field names, we can. Okay. So we have our artist and album set up. One of the things about it is, how does this relate to inventory? Okay. So inventory, the idea of the album here is we should only have to enter the album information once. So, but there we might have several different albums. So in inventory, I'm going to give it, again, its ID. And make it auto increment. I am going to have the album. So let's don't write the album ID in there. We'll do that in a second. We will have the condition. You could do a lookup table for condition if you want. I'm just going to do it right now as you just type it in. But it wouldn't hurt to have a lookup table just to be consistent. Maybe I will add a lookup table. So I'm going to do, we'll call it condition, and ID condition, give it a primary key, auto increment, condition name. Okay, so here I'm going to delete that, and what we're going to do is we're going to go from the condition. So, and you want the dashed ones for this. From the condition, actually no, let me skip that. That's the wrong way. You want to go from the foreign key, dashed one, foreign key to the primary key. So there you have condition marked with the album. I'm also going to, with the dashed one, go from inventory to album to add the album ID. And then there are a couple of other things we need to know about this. But before that, we need to know the store purchase and who it was purchased from. So we'll be adding stuff to inventory. Does that make sense? All of this is the album. The album is now attached to the inventory. The inventory has a condition. Everything is set up there. Inventory needs a couple more fields. All right, so we did customer. somewhere. Am I losing? Oh, it's up above. Is it up above? I do not see my customer. We've got employee, we've got store purchase. I'm going to call it person instead of customer because we'll put everybody in it, whether they're purchasing or selling, everybody. And we'll give it a person ID, same principle. And we're going to, where did it go? Oh, there it is. I'm not going to do everything. I'm going to do person last name, person first name, notice that I'm not allowing any spaces. You really can't have any spaces in here. Actually, let's make the first name optional. Email, person email, which will not be optional. And I got an extra person column here, which person phone. Now you could do the phone, you could make it like 13 and then it will limit it. It won't let me. Email could probably be bigger. And varchar is perfectly fine for all of these. I would not make a phone an integer. This one I would want... this needs to be a varchar. I don't know what I just did. And I want it... 45 is fine there. I was trying to make it so that the email could be bigger. 255 is the maximum number. The phone... I don't know why it didn't want 13. It's okay with it now. Okay, so we got our person. That's all I want for person. For the employee, I will do an employee ID, same principle. And then I'm going to do just a hire date. And instead of this, I'm going to choose date time. Or maybe just date. Let's just do date. We don't really need the time for that. Okay, and then, all right, let's get these kind of out of the way. I am going to click from, again, the dashed one. I'm going to click on employee and in here, and so the employee is a person there. Okay, and then we need, I'm going to move that up above for reasons. So keep losing things. Things keep going away. My sale and point of sale seem to be gone. All right, well, we'll worry about that later. I'm going to add a purchase detail too, because it's a lot like a sale. They could purchase a whole bunch of them at once. Oh, purchase detail. Okay. So, in the purchase, in the store purchase, so we'll create a primary key there. Why do things disappear? Anyway, we need the person that we're purchasing from. So again, the dashed one. The solid one will make it a part of the primary key. It's called an identifying. If you look at that, it says identifying relationship. It will create the foreign key as a part of the primary key of the other table, and that's not what you want. You want the dashed one most of the time. So I am going to click here and in here. That isn't what I wanted. When you make a mistake, you can just delete it down in the properties. Alright, so I am going to, again, a dashed one here and in here. That gives us the person. Again, if you like the primary keys to be the same, you can edit it. Alright, so we're also going to be purchasing an album. And so this will require that the album be entered first. But I am going to take the dashed one again. I'm going to click here and there. So we have the album ID that is being purchased. I didn't put the condition here. You could put the condition down here. I am going to add the purchase price. So what they paid for it. And varchar is not what I want here. I want something like decimal. I don't think they've got like a currency. So what we really want is decimal. And it will be required. Now, this isn't hooked to inventory, just to say that. It will be hooked to inventory. Actually, I'm going to kill this relationship because we don't need it. We have the album ID down here. So what I want to do is just put the purchase ID in inventory because the purchase ID has the album ID and the person ID that it was purchased from. Although that should go in the detail. See, I screw up too. I am going to kill this relationship. And I'm going to get rid of the album ID here. And the purchase price, actually. Those should go. Can I drag them? No. So I'm going to remove this. And I'm going to remove this. I will add, we want the person. We also want the date. We could say store purchased date. And again, we would want to change that to date. And then here, is where we would hook the album that's being purchased. And also the price. And we will give it a decimal data type. Right, because we want to be able to calculate prices. If you leave it as a character, you won't be able to do that. We also, then this is what we'll hook to inventory. Because it has, we can get the album, we can get the price, we get the purchase through here. And then also we want this to hook to purchase, of course. And we can change the keys in there if we want the foreign keys. Okay, so we have got the purchase. I know it's confusing, but we've got the album. The album has an artist. We also have the album has a genre. We've created a inventory. The album is in the inventory. We get the album through the purchase detail because we have to purchase each album. So we purchase it from a person. We have a date when it was purchased. We have the album that was purchased. We have the store. We have the purchase. It's tied to the purchase. We have the purchase detail, which is the price. We have the decimal for the price. And then that's hooked into the inventory. I'm putting the condition here, but the condition could be when you purchase it too. We have a person who can be an employee, or if they're down here and making a purchase, they're a seller. The same would be true of sale. I'm going to close this just to see if I can find my sale. Somewhere my sale and sale detail have disappeared. And I do not know why that would be. So, but we'll need to add a sale. Alright, and I'm going to give it a sale ID, and it'll be a primary key auto increment. And we will also need a sale detail. And I really have no idea what happened to this. When you watch the video, you might see I might have overwritten them or something. One of the things that we could do right away is that sale will be linked to sale detail. And we could get rid of change the name of it if we want. Alright, so involved in a sale will be a person. So I will do again, another link from here to person. The tricky thing with this is you always do from the foreign key to the primary key, and that's a bit confusing. And again, if we want to, we can change this to just ID person. You don't have to do that. You can leave it the way it is. We're also going to get something from inventory. So again, click from here to inventory, because we'll get a particular inventory item that we're saying. Oh, actually not yet. That goes in the detail. But we do want the employee. Where is the employee? Way up there. So click here, Click here. I will try to arrange this so it looks better when we're done. We have the employee. The other thing that's really important for a sale is the date and time. So let's come down here and we'll add sale we could call it sale date time. Oh, I hit the cap lock. And we don't want any spaces. I don't know if there's date, time. All right, and we want this to be a date time data type. And it is definitely required. All right. The other thing in the sale detail will be the inventory item. And I'm going to, so we'll change this. I'm going to add a discount. And we'll make it a decimal. Decimals generally, well, actually, there's a couple of decimals. One of them has parentheses, one doesn't. If it has parentheses, it's going to require arguments. So let's do this one. Okay, so that's the discount. Up here in the inventory, let's add... First, I'm going to change these to our other naming convention where the foreign key has the same name as the primary key. And then I'm going to add the price, the sell price. So what we want to sell it for. And again, I want to do that as a decimal. Could do the decimal is the parentheses. You just have to tell what the thing is. So we have, I think that will do. So for every album in the sale, there will be a sale detail tied to the sale. So I think we're done with the sale. We're done with the everything except the request. And so the request, I am going to give it an ID like all the others. I'm going to give it a date. And we'll make it a date. Just a date, not a date time. And we are going to have a person. Right? So any date is made by a person. Also, a date will have, a request will have a employee involved. And then we want an album. This time I'm going to go from album instead of inventory, because if it was in inventory, they would have it already. All right. And we might also add something like request description, so that if you can describe more what they want. And I'm going to let that be nullable. This one can go away. And then there's this one I'm going to definitely make a little bit bigger than 45 characters. All right, and then let's just change our keys. Again, this is just cleaning up. It's not necessary. That should be ID album. Okay, so that is our complete thing, and it's complicated, as you can see. I am going to go to database. Let's see, model. I'm looking for an arrange. There it is, arrange. Let's try an auto layout and see what we get. Okay, there's a sale detail. So I'm going to delete that because it was there. And there's the sale that we lost. So I'm going to delete it also. If you have duplicates, it'll cause problems. I don't know that that's any better as a diagram. I think there's a way to see the whole thing. I'm going to let it stand right here. This is going to be the end, but let's walk through it again. So the first thing we did was the album. Actually, this is just a maze, but the album has a genre, which we do with a intermediate table. Why is that up there? I could do much better with my own arrangements. But I will not do that right now. Album, genre, this is the linking table for that. Album, artist, here's the linking table for that. And then we have the album links to inventory. Actually, it doesn't link directly to inventory. Every album is purchased. Where in the hell is purchased? There's purchase. And every purchase has details, and that purchase detail is linked to inventory. Okay, and the album gets there because the purchase detail has the album ID, which needs to be edited again, I see. Actually, will that work? You'll have to enter the album first before you can do that. All right, so we purchase an album. We enter the album when we purchase it. It's in the purchase detail. The purchase detail gets attached to inventory. Every album in inventory has a condition. Those albums can be sold. So we go to sale. And then we go to sale detail with the individual albums. The sale ties it to the person and to the employee. The sale detail ties it to the album and allows you to give any discounts. Let me try arrange a different way. This is the last thing I'm going to do. So we got inventory and condition. We have got album. I'm going to put this over here. And I'm going to put genre over here. I'm going to put artist. And I'm going to put this here. It makes much more sense to have that there. And then I'm going to do, so we have inventory here. I'm going to do a purchase. Bring up the purchase detail. We'll make that a little bit better in a moment. So we got a purchase. I'm going to bring up person up to here. An employee. Sale detail. I'll move it over a little so it gets a little bit. And we have our request. I don't know. It's a little better. It's not good. It's a little better. Okay, when you're done with the model, you want to save it. So I'm going to File, and we're going to save the model. And we're going to save it as Vincent's. And I think I want, I don't want to save it as a PDF. So it's saving as a workbench model, and I will save it. So if I were to close this diagram, all right, and close this, I could still do File, Open Model, go to Documents, look for Vincent's in WB, and open it, and here we have it all again. I'm going to stop this video, all right, and we'll do another one for moving it into the database.